For surface mounting components and BGA in particular, two types of pads can be used: NSMD, non-solder mask defined pads, and SMD, solder mask defined pads. The choice in favor of this or that type is made depending on the pitch of the chip leads, pad sizes, and manufacturer's recommendations. The difference between them is that for the former, the size of the solder mask opening exceeds the size of the copper pad, and for the later, on the contrary, the size of the copper pad exceeds the size of the mask opening. In the following information, we will consider how to specify both types of pads. By default, the solder mask expansion mode of all pads is set to rule, which means that the size of the opening is determined by the rules of the PCB document using that footprint. This setup can be kept for chips with a large pitch, for example 1 mm, but a small pitch requires closer attention of the designer. For ICs with 0.5 mm pitch, it is better to set the mask settings explicitly in the library. To do this, let's select all the pads and set the solder mask expansion in the Properties panel to manual mode. The value of the mask opening is set as an indent from the size of the contact pads in copper, 0.05 mm. Thus, we obtain an NSMD pad because the aperture of the solder mask exceeds the pad size in copper with an indent of 0.05 mm on each side. However, for this chip the manufacturer recommends mask-defined pads with an aperture diameter in the mask of 0.275 mm. Let the size of the pad in copper exceeds the opening of the mask by 0.05 mm on each side. Then its diameter should be 0.375 mm. To indicate that the mask aperture should be smaller than the copper pad, the solder mask expansion value should be negative. Then don't forget to set the settings for the paste layer accordingly to avoid the risk of getting incorrect data for the stencils.